amino acid. Again, nitrogen, carbon, and carbon, that's our backbone. This carbon has the carboxyl group on it, and this nitrogen has the amine group on it, and this carbon is attached to one hydrogen and the R group, and that's what makes each amino acid unique. And so this is the basic structure of an amino acid. We need to talk about how we can combine these to make a polypeptide. And I'll give you a hint. We have an OH group and we have a hydrogen. That's going to give us a water molecule. So think about how these monomers are going to come together. I gave you a big hint here. I'm going to draw two next to each other. Here's one, here's two. What's going to happen is that a water molecule is going to be formed and it's going to be removed. And remember, this is called dehydration synthesis. So dehydration synthesis has occurred. Water has come out. And what we're left with is our two amino acids bonded together. And just to simplify it here, I didn't include what's on the central carbon, but we can go ahead and add it in. That hydrogen and then the R group, hydrogen and then the R group. So because of dehydration synthesis, we now have a bond between the end carbon of our first amino acid and the beginning nitrogen of our second amino acid. Once you have the hang of this and you know how this works, and you know that there's a hydrogen up here with this carbon and R group, that's going to determine which amino acid we're talking about, we can simplify it a little bit more. We're just going to say NCC, because that is our backbone, make a little box, and include our R group. So each of these bonds is a result of dehydration synthesis. And to remind you, remember that on the end, where there is not another amino acid bound, the carboxyl group on this side and that amine group on this side. These bonds are formed by dehydration synthesis. But just like nucleic acids, when we had that fancy word for the bonds formed by dehydration synthesis, remember that was the phosphodiester bonds. These bonds also have a fancy name. So when these dehydration synthesis events occur between amino acids, the bonds that's left is called a peptide bond. That is because when you have many amino acids connected together like this, it's called a polypeptide, because you have many peptide bonds.